الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم نستعين وهو خير الناصرين المؤمنين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
So inshallah, I have been told that I'm going to talk about the first habit, which is be proactive, right? So that's why I use this terminology that we are basically using science and faith. Like I mentioned one of the presentation that there may be a problem in Christianity that they can say that science and faith is different, but in Islam it's the same thing. That's why we have Al-Hadi. Then everything which is hukum by aql, it's a hukum by shar. The same thing. But the pure aql. Not that aql which got influenced by shahwat or anger. So inshallah, since my time is short, I'm going to go directly for the proactive. So there are 7 habits, right? I hope that you have studied these things before coming over here, because my job is that I will show you this proactive from Islamic lens, from Muslim lens. Okay. Now, 7 habits. The first one is be proactive. Second one is begin with the end in mind. The third one is first thing first. Now here, Stephen Covey, he said that these 3, if you achieve these 3 habits, you will go and have a private victory. Which means in your personal life, you will have falah. You will have a victory. And then the next 4 will provide you public victory. So there is like dependency to independence and interdependence. That's a cycle. Again, I'm not going for that. I will focus for proactivity too. Okay? Now, the first habit is be proactive. As for Stephen Covey, it's a foundational habit. It's the main habit, foundation. If you are not proactive, you cannot achieve the other habits. It's not possible. You need to be proactive in order to have this begin with the end in mind. Otherwise, all the time, maybe your ladder, if you remember that begin with the end in mind, that you're trying something, you're striving something, in the end you find out, oh my God, you are in the wrong direction. You're climbing a mountain, you're climbing a ladder, you're going up and up and up, you reach after 30 years, 40 years, you reach to your destination, wrong move, I'm sorry. That ladder was climbing on the wrong wall, okay? If you're not proactive, then always you would miss your priorities. Maybe your second priority, you miss it with the third one with the fourth one. If you're not proactive, you're not going to have win-win. You may have win-lose or lose-win attitude. If you're not proactive, maybe you will demand that people need to understand you first before you understand other people. If you're not proactive, there is no synergy. And again, of course, you're not going to sharpen the saw. So proactive is the foundational goal. And again, it's not just as per Stephen Covey, it's also from Islam. I call proactive as muttaqi, the one who has taqwa. Remember that when you open Quran and Allah is introducing this book, how Allah is introducing this book? Zalikal Kitab, La Rayba Fi, that book, there is no doubt in it, and then Hudan lil. Okay, the foundation is you need to be muttaqi in order to get the guidance. Otherwise, if you're not muttaqi, close the Quran and leave. No need. You need to be muttaqi in order to get the guidance. Okay, you need to have some sort of taqwa in order to get this guidance, right? So again, taqwa is also the foundation for Islam. The same thing, proactivity is the foundation of 7 habits. Okay? Now, what's the definition of proactive? Normally, when we think and we're looking one, just like in the dictionary, normally you can find this definition in the dictionary. Dictionary, that says the one who's taking initiative. No, that's a very simple one, right? Proactive person is the one who's responsible. He's taking care of his life. He's controlling his life. His decisions are based on a value, not based on emotions, not based on conditions. That person is proactive. So again, we'll go through a few of these slides, like be proactive. Like I mentioned, I'm taking this with taqwa. Taqwa, the root is waqaya. Waqaya, which means paying attention, which means attentive. Waqaya, nigahdari in Farsi. I don't know how many of you saw soldiers, army, when they have a drill, they have this attention, and they're like straight, which means they are attentive. That's the situation like taqwa. That's the situation like you're proactive, you're careful, you're not heedless, you're not ghafil. Okay? All right, so Mu'min is always proactive. Let's see. We have so many ayat and a hadith emphasizing about taqwa. By the way, let me have a disclaimer. I'm always behind my schedules, and last minute when I'm putting the slides, always making typos. In my class, children, they're laughing. I said, all right, we'll laugh. I'm sorry. If you find any typo, anything, just ignore it, okay? Look at this verse of Quran. وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ لَعَلَّكُمْ تُفْلِحُونَ. Which is Stephen Covey saying, be proactive. If you be proactive, you'll be successful. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ, have taqwa for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you will be successful. لَعَلَّكُمْ تُفْلِحُونَ. Maybe you will be successful. You'll be victorious. Now, again, that's a basic thing, that proactive, you're in charge of yourself. I have a can-do attitude and always try my best at everything I do. I follow directions and do the right things without being asked, even when nobody is looking. Right? That's a muttaqi person also does, right? If someone is watching or not watching, he's praying his salat on time. Right? He's honest all the time. He's always careful. He's always careful about his tongue. I choose my actions. I choose my action. Attitudes and moods, and do not blame others for my wrongdoing. All right. All right, let's go and go through this chart. Now, we have in the philosophy and in Al-Hadi, it said that if you need to recognize something, تعرف الأشياء بأزدادها. Let's say if I have to define day, then I will say day is when there is no night. Which means تعرف الأشياء بأزدادها, that you define something by their opposite. Right? So here, Stephen Covey is trying to explain proactivity or proactive person by saying, what's the difference between proactive and opposite of the proactive, which is reactive? Okay? Now again, as I said, this is not the course. This is something we need to internalize. We need to internalize. So we have to be very honest with ourselves. Okay? The same thing with the taqwa. We need to find out if we are muttaqi or not. You need to be honest with us. So again, what's the difference between proactive person versus reactive person, a muttaqi person or the person who's not muttaqi? Muttaqi person is always take responsibility for their lives. And inshallah, I will bring some of those ahadith and Quranic verses. Whereas reactive persons, they try to place blame on others. Proactive people, they make things happen because they're responsible. And then other one is get happened to. They make choices based on values, not based on impulses, not based on emotions. How many times you saw that people when in the family, they're fighting because of emotions? If they pause for a minute and they will have a decision based on, or their reaction is based on their intellect and value system. Let's say these are the values for our house. These are the values for Al-Hadi. These are the values for our class. These are the values when we are interacting with other people. If we make decisions, we make choices based on values versus our emotions. Proactive people, they're always making their decisions based on values. Then think before they act. That's the quality of a proactive person. And you see the other part. Think before they speak. Use proactive language. Now, again, I see for last couple of weeks, I'm talking about this Risalatul Huquq. In Risalatul Huquq, Imam Sajjad, because majority of the time we react by our tongues. We also react by our limbs, but tongue is the most effective. We use our tongue more than any other limb. There Imam Sajjad is talking about what are the haqq of lisan? Imam said, Amma haqqul lisanihi. Imam start explaining about haqqul lisan. I'm not going to go through all those hadiths, but then Imam is saying that haqqul lisan, that you have to avoid all those inappropriate languages. You use only when you need it. You're not supposed to just keep talking. You're not supposed to. See, again, Imam is helping you to have control of your tongue. So think before you speak. Use proactive language. Calm and cool, in control of how they respond to situations. These are the proactive. You can read it, and again, it's in the book. You can go through this. All right. Because time is short, I'm not going to go through these scenarios. That's normally I run with students in my class. Okay. So, if you read this chapter, Stephen Covey, let me go through this book first. Stephen Covey said the proactive person, you saw that, the way he reacts. He's thinking before he speak, he think before act, he is not blaming others, is making decision based on value system, not on emotions. Then he is saying how to do it. How to do it. And he come up with this, he discovered this formula. In fact, the Viktor Frankl, one of the psychologists, he discovered this formula. That humans all the time, they come across with stimulus. Something happened in your life. And then the response. He came up with the formula that if you create space between your stimulus and response, then you're proactive. If you have a stimulus, let's say your spouse said something, and immediately you respond because you're angry, you react. If you pause for a second or few seconds, then you're proactive. Stephen Covey said that. It's a very interesting study, and I really got impressed by his findings. He said that there lies your freedom. There lies your freedom. I'll show you the chart. So again, this exercise I was using this exercise for my students so they can see what kind of a stimulus they may face. These are the example of stimulus, right? I'll go real quick with this one. You left the stove on too long, and now your meal is burned, right? On your way out the door, your cat escaped outside, and now you will be late. These are stimulus. While walking down the street, you slip on some fallen leaves, especially these days, right? Fall started, right? Not Houston, but maybe in Chicago and other places. All right, so again, this is an exercise to immediately figure out who was at fault other than you, or you're taking responsibility. You left the stove. That's a good thing to blame this movie, right? And again, your cat escaped because your neighbor in the morning went, hello, and you were just facing. I said, oh my God, why did you do that? Swing the leaves up on the ground. Camp. All right, I'm not going to go for why we play the blame game. I will go really skip from these things. Time is less. Remember that in the introduction, he had this idea of inside out, right? So all these people, when they're blaming other, they are trying to have other people fix their behavior. Inside out, that you fix your behavior, your world, and that's how through inside you change outside. Okay, and again, we have this Quranic verse, but again, I'm not going to spend time here. So we come out from here. Now, so proactive person is always responsible. Other person, reactive person is always blaming the other, right? We have so many hadith and Quranic verse in this responsibility. And Stephen Covey himself, he put this very nicely. Responsibility means responsibility. Responsibility. You have the ability to respond. If there is no gap between stimulus and your response, which means you do not have responsibility. You do not have ability to respond. Okay? You do not have ability to respond. And again, we have these ahadiths, all these ahadiths from Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Like Prophet mentioned, ala kullukum ra'in wa kullukum mas'ul an ra'iyati. All of you, every single one of you, you're responsible. And then he go through the list. The Amir is responsible, ruler is responsible, then every man is a shepherd to his family, and every woman is a custodian of her husband's house and children. And again, one by one, every. We also responsible for our family. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu qu anfusakum wa ahlikum nara. You're responsible for your family. You're responsible for your lands and animals. Ittaqullah fi ibadihi. Be proactive about my servants. Wa biladihi. And for the land. Fa innakum mas'ulun. You're responsible. Hatta anil biqa wa bahaim wa atiyullah wa la tas. Right? You are responsible. Mu'min is responsible. It's not that you can say we have no responsibility. Again, like I mentioned so many times, animal rights, this right of the land, everything, Mu'min is responsible. Mu'min is responsible. Okay. In I think in the junior class, we are going through these 3 minutes of 3 minutes to Qiyamah. One person he saw in the Barzakh that he got reward for something. He said, what is that reward for? They remind him that when he was a teenager and his car broke down and someone asked, hey, you know the radiator lost the water. He says, look at the water, right? He was getting the water and it was full and it was heavy. So he said, okay, let me throw some of the water. Instead of throwing the water on the land, he threw the water on the plant. And when he went there, he saw the reward from Allah. He says, oh my God, can I give a reward for this? Because I was taking care of a plant. But we are responsible. Again, I'm going to skip these things. You're responsible for it. All right, let's go for this. We have to, because the most important thing here is how to be proactive. How to be proactive. That's the most important. So we'll start from here. That's where Stephen Covey is saying. That's his, I'll say, that's the beauty of this like things he discovered. He says there is stimulus and there is a response. If you create the space between them, if you respond immediately, that's it. You're reactive. You're reactive. That's it. Something happened in your class and you reacted immediately, you're reactive. You're reactive. You need to have pause. And there he mentioned that in this area, you have 4 endowments. Very interesting. I wish I will have like 30, 40 minutes that I can just talk about those 4 endowments. But inshallah, you'll read it. All right. We already talked about this verse. Taqwa, we talked about this in Quran. Taqwa is so many times, 250 times in Quran. Now, look at this. So, normally we respond by our tongue. Okay. In Islam, we said that we have 4 faculties. Every human, they have 4 faculties. And again, these young people, they know, they're not from my senior class. No one is sitting in the junior class, they're not sitting. Otherwise, they memorized all these things. 4 faculties. We have intellect, aql. We have shahwat, desires. We have anger, ghadab. And we have wahm, imagination. We have only 4 faculties. Okay? The art of human is that he controls his desire, his anger, and his imagination using up. It's not that other people, they're not using up. It's not. Netanyahu is also using aql, but his desire and anger is controlling aql. Let me go real quick. These 4 is for the surviving faculties for the human. If you, like for example, the desires or the shahwat, when we feel hungry, that's coming from our shahwat. Shahwat doesn't mean that lust only. Shahwat means the force of attraction. My body is saying I'm dehydrating. That's coming because of I have this shahwat, right? It's controlling. I have all, this is shahwat. Anger is repulsion. When you have a fever, actually your body is repelling something. You have something inappropriate in your stomach, you start vomiting. That's, your body is basically showing ghadab, anger, repulsion. And then you have wahm, imagination, right? All the thoughts, everything. So you have 3 faculties. You need to control all 3 with your aql. If you are like in this case, where you're replying immediately, which means you're not using your aql. If you're using your aql, you are not going to. So that's why in this context, look at this hadith from Amir al-Mu'minin. from Nahnul Wala. Lisanul Aqil Wara'i Qalbi. Qalb here is Aql. Lisanul Aqil, which means something happened, like let's say my spouse said something and I got angry. If I will use, before I will open up my mouth, I will say something. If I will analyze, because lisanul aqil wara'i qalbihi, he will first think, then speak, first think, then act. Wa qalbul ahmaq is here reactive person. Wara'i lisanihi, his intellect is after this, which means he will say something, then he said, oh my God, what did I do? Okay. So again, how to be proactive? You need to make sure that you control your response. Do not respond immediately. Not immediately. Have this, again, that requires practice. Okay? Like in that Risalatul Huquq, ta'wituhu, Imam said, alal khair. You have habit, give it habit for the khair. Now, let me go, again, this topic requires like, I don't know, more than an hour, right? Stephen Covey said, and rightfully, he said that between your stimulus and between your response, if you use as a human, you have 4 endowment. Allah gave you 4 gifts. 4 gifts. And you have that as a human gift. Animals, they do not have these gifts. Number 1, self-awareness. You are self-aware of yourself. How? Look at that. We have this capability that I can imagine, I can realize myself, I can think that, look, I'm sitting on this table or on this chair in front of this table, and I can imagine, I can feel myself. The same way I can have self-awareness, what my mood is. Is it I'm angry? I'm sad? People have this gift that they can analyze, they can have self-awareness. They can realize their mood, their state of their situations. That's one thing, self-awareness. That's why we have so many verses and ahadith. Man arafa nafsa. Whoever recognizes himself, recognizing self, khud shanasi, recognizing yourself, it's one of the most important ibadah that you have to recognize. To an extent that Allah said, Man arafa nafsahu faqad arafa rabbah. Only one who will recognize is Lord, who is recognize himself. If you do not recognize yourself, then you do not. So again, self-awareness, examining your thoughts, moods, and behavior. Then, imagination. You visualize beyond. So, Stephen Covey said that, look, let's say stimulus happened. I'll give you a simple example. You're going home and your spouse, you have something, or with someone else, let's say in your class, you have something, a stimulus happened from one of the student, right? And now you're going to respond. First of all, if you have self-awareness, oh, seems like that guy made me angry. Oh, he made me upset. Self-awareness. Then the second part is imagination, right? If you stuck in the self-awareness, you stuck in that cycle. If you have this imagination, if I will behave this way, if I will control my anger, that will be the consequence, that will be the result, that will be the reward, that will come through your imagination. From your takhayyul, from that khayal you have. Okay? He said that it's not all, it's an and relationship. Between the only way you can control your response if you're aware of yourself That's why alcohol is haram, because you do not have any awareness about yourself. You're aware who you are, what's your state. And then you imagine that see, again, that's that in-depth discussion we said, you have a choice of your action, but you do not have a choice for the consequence, because it's natural. It's natural. So if you imagine that if I will say these words to my wife, the consequences will be this, that imagination can help you to control and create a pause. And then conscience, your wijdan. That wijdan, which understanding the right and wrong. No, that's wrong. Or that's right. If you use that, and then you have a free will. You're not like, for example, put it this way. If there's a cat over here, if I somehow step on her tail, she doesn't have a capability to have different response. She will immediately attack. But human, no. We have a free will. We have a free will. We can choose not to. So, Stephen Covey was saying, if you use these three and then you exercise your free will, oh my God, the word he used, that was in Shahid Mutahiri's book. He said that you will have that freedom. And that was Shahid Mutahiri called spiritual freedom. Be free. You're a free man. You're whole. Remember that whole becomes whole with his. You realize? Look at that. If you apply this on all this four endowment for the whole for a second. Whole is in the army of Umar Sa'ad. He did this self-awareness. Look, who am I? And again, when did he do his self-awareness? When he was trying to stop Imam Hussein, and Imam Hussein sakaltu li ummat, right? Imam said something that, may your mother be cry on the dead body. And there he had the self-awareness. He was trying to respond immediately. He said, who am I? And who's the mother of Hussein? Fatima. I cannot say that. He stopped. Stop. See, he got this freedom. His hurriyat starts from there. Again, he had this imagination and endowment and this conscious, and he got this hurriyat. The Imam pronounced that Antal Hur, your Hur, the dunya wal akhirah. Like the same way your mother name, Hur. Hur means a free man. So again, I'm going to stop here, just few ahadith. Like the whole purpose is that we use our intellect to control our shahwat. And look at this isarat they talk about. Abdu shahwa asirun. That's someone who's a slave of the shahwat, of these desires or lust. He or she is asir, slave, like the slave of the lust is a captive who will never break free from his captivity. The same way, someone who is not controlling his anger, he's not the malik of his aql. And that's why the ghadab is the key for all the shar. That's one thing. So again, one thing, how to be proactive as per Stephen Covey, you need to have this, there need to be a response. There need to be a gap between your stimulus and response. And the second thing he said, whenever you come across the situations, always look, there are two circles, there are two things. There are a few things you do not have any control over, that called circle of concern. And then there are things which you have control over, that called circle of influence. And again, that's a nice theory that if you start focusing on one of the circle, that circle will start expanding and other circle will start shrinking. So again, if you focus on circle of influence, the circle of influence will start becoming, let me give you this example. Let's say, I'm not happy with my son for something. Again, that's my circle of concern because I cannot control him. Allah gave him a free will, right? Allah gave him a free will. I cannot just say, and he may or may not agree because he has a free will. So I do not have a control over him. Like the same thing, I do not have a control on the weather. I don't have a control of so many things. When there was a coronavirus, I didn't have a control for the coronavirus, right? I don't have a control for earthquake. There are so many things I do not have a control over. If I'm keep thinking and worrying about those things which I do not have a control, I'm staying in circle of concern all the time. No, circle of influence is something else. Circle of influence where you have control over. So let's say I do not have a control over my son's response, but I have control on myself. If I will choose my words wisely, and I will show this love and some techniques and skill, then I'm going to change his behavior. So I'm still changing his behavior through changing my behavior. That's called going through circle of influence. Circle of influence, changing the circle of concern. So again, the two major things for the proactivity is you take care of that gap, make sure to have a habit of not responding immediately, and also looking around and make sure that something which you do not control, at that moment you think, what do you control? And focus on that part, and that will help you and will make you proactive. If I can say just this one word, if it will take few months for you to become proactive, if it will take few years to become proactive, it's worth it. If it takes for someone to take 20 years to be proactive, it's worth it. Because Allah is only going to accept from muttaqeen. Okay? You becoming muttaqeen. Thank you, Jazakallah.
Oh, ma.